All right, I'm ready when you're ready.
It's good. Good afternoon. I would like to call the April 27th, 2022 Henrietta Town Board meeting to order. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranek,
Here.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Here.
Councilmember Page,
Here.
Councilmember Belanca,
Here.
Supervisor Schultz.
Here. We'll begin tonight with a silent prayer followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
Mr. Supervisor and fellow town board members, I move that we approve the minutes of the April 12th, 2022 Henrietta Town Board meeting.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. First up, we have special use permit application number 2022-012, Third Rock Solar LLC, 362 Chelsea Meadow Drive, to allow a 3.94% lot coverage due to the proposed installation of a 672 square foot solar array. Do we have a representative?
Yes, we do. My name is Stephen Reed.
Could you just give us so are you the property owner or are you from Third Rock Solar?
I'm from Third Rock Solar, and Brian Carbone, which he's on the meeting here also, is the owner of the property.
Can you give us a little bit of an overview as far as the project itself?
Sure. What we'd like to do is be able to put a small ground mount solar array on the back side of the property. Pretty much both of the homes on each side of them, as far as the neighbors go, don't have direct view of it from their home. They'd have to go out. Of course, I think on the one side, Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, that the one customer to the right of you, does he have a fence on his side?
Yes, 354 has a fence. I mean, he'll be able to see over it. He said he has no problem with it whatsoever.
Okay, and then the other to the left of it is it pretty much, I think the properties meet there as far as that goes, and the array is going to be kind of offset towards the back, and there's really of course there's no neighbors on the back side of the property. So we try to position it in a place where, of course, it'll get good sun and it meets all the criterias as far as, setbacks and all of that stuff. It's not a huge array. It doesn't cover, a lot of space, but we were looking to try and do something on his house, but because of the positioning of the house, it just wasn't feasible. And he does have a pretty sizable backyard there.
What's the view shed from, what's that main road to the
Lehigh.
house?
Lehigh Station Road.
And do you have a fence back there? It looks like you have are those evergreens?
Here's some evergreens and there's a berm, but there's no fence.
Okay. How visible is it over the berm?
It shouldn't be very. I mean, I'm sure cars could potentially see it, but they have to look up and over a hill.
Gotcha.
And it's far enough back that it shouldn't be a big view. If anything, it'd be the very top.
And that would be so you're to the south of Lehigh? So they'd be seeing the backside of it, is that correct?
Correct.
That would be the most they'd be saying. I mean, the units only on the tallest side would be just around about 7 feet.
Okay. I just wanted, because like one of the things I just wanted to make sure is from a reflection, you know, I wouldn't want the sun to reflect off the panels and provide glare for a driver.
Of course, and then that's something that we always consider when we're doing.
Right, but since it looks like you're facing the other direction, any glare would be directed at the back porch of 362 Chelsea.
That's correct.
At 30 degrees, my understanding is that most of that should go towards the sky anyway. Is that correct?
It will, very minimal though. I mean, it's not going to harm aircraft going over the top or anything like that.
Right.
It's just,
Okay.
you know,
And is it, so this is a fixed mount? It doesn't track at all?
that's correct. Yes, it's a fixed mount, fixed at 30 degrees due south.
I'm done with my questions. Other board members? I don't know if I left anything for you, but go ahead.
I do have a question, actually. I'm looking at the property map right now, and am I correct that the adjacent property is the one that borders the egress from Chelsea Meadows out to Lehigh Station Road? Is that correct?
Yes. I
Okay,
think
is
it-
that also the intersection directly across the street from Vollmer Parkway?
Correct.
Okay, I drove by it today, and I will tell you that I didn't exactly see the height of a berm that you may have been describing. You said it's going to be a 7-foot high from the ground panel?
Yes, that'll be the highest point,
Okay, the lowest point, sir?
about 3 feet.
And you said a 30-degree angle, it's going to be pointed back towards the homeowner's property, correct?
That's 100% correct.
Do you have something in writing from your neighbors stating that they don't have an objection to it?
I have it from the neighbor on the right. The neighbor on the left would not sign. She did not tell me why.
Chris Martin, do you remember this, or Don? Is there a requirement then for a fence if they're not willing to sign off on that?
Chris,
Ground mounted?
Director of Engineering and Planning. I'll be honest, Steve, I had to look at the code on that. But I can look at that right now, see if we can get an answer. I don't know, Don, do you remember anything?
I don't remember there being any contingency on neighbor signing something in order to require something.
I thought it was that there was a requirement to have a fence unless the neighbor signed off saying they didn't need it.
That's the way I read it. You had to have a fence unless a neighbor agreed you didn't have to have a fence.
Mr. Chairman,
Let me have a look.
Kevin Wilson, Director of Building and Fire Prevention. There is a requirement for 6-foot high screening from the neighbors and from the public right of way. It does state that the neighbors would have to sign a release from that screening. But it appears to me that we will need some type of 6-foot high barrier between Lehigh Station and the array.
Okay, thank you, Kevin.
Yeah, actually, and I see that. I was looking at the code. This is Don, the attorney. 295-71D of our code says that small-scale solar energy systems shall be appropriately screened to minimize views from adjacent residential properties with a minimum height of 6 feet visual screening from other uses or public rights of way. Alternative to the screening, the applicant may submit a release of this requirement signed by all adjacent residential property not screened.
Okay,
So Don, with the road being behind it, obviously we as a town aren't going to sign, I would imagine wouldn't sign off on that. So they would have a requirement of having it in the back then, correct?
Let's see. It says shall be appropriately screened to minimize views from adjacent residential properties.
Okay.
it does say. so
And
what's
from
the-
other uses or public rights of way. So I guess you could read that to require screening of the right of way.
Right, but for instance, like where the pine trees are, that would be sufficient as evergreens.
Mhm.
Yeah, that seems to be, some of it is screened already with the existing trees.
Well, as long as the pine trees stay, but the pine trees have such a shallow base to them that, I mean, pine trees, a big wind could come along and push them out. So would they be required to put something back in its place?
You could condition a special permit on it being compliant with the code, and if it came down, then they wouldn't be compliant. They need to put something else there to screen it.
Yeah, that was my thinking.
So my question is for the neighbor to the left, if she, I think he said she didn't sign, does there also have to be screening on the left-hand side as well?
That's correct, although it sounds like, I don't know if she was specifically approached with regards to whether she would prefer the screening or not. I think it was whether she provided a letter that said she didn't have any issues with it.
Correct.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
So the neighbor that did not want to sign, is that the neighbor with the fence?
No, there's the one to the left. Her name is Kathy. So you can see the angular red line on the screen. The one with the fence is the one on the right.
Okay, so there's no screening there at the moment.
Right. Any other questions?
Quick question, could the screening be around the backside and off to the left side? As long as it was enough to where the customer could not see it? Yeah, excuse me, the neighbor next door couldn't see it, would that be sufficient enough?
So again, it's supposed to be screened from the right of way as well. But yes, down the left-hand side, so again, just looking at this, I would say it would have to start about where it looks like there's some sort of evergreen bush to the left of, in the red is a deck.
Okay,
So start from there. It doesn't necessarily need to follow the property line, but I assume you'd want to follow, whatever. But so essentially the northwest corner of the property looks like where it's currently deficient in screening.
okay,
But ultimately, that would be you'd be working with the Department of Building and Fire Prevention in terms of, they would come out and just take a look at it and tell you if it's.
sufficient enough?
Mhm.
So my reading was that the panels are 14 feet tall. Is that correct?
No, they are not. They're 14 feet in depth. Okay, so the footprint is about 14. It's maybe a little bit under that as far as the way it's pitched towards.
Correct,
So,
correct, yeah.
so that'd be on the shorter edge.
Okay, so I guess my question then is, will a 6-foot fence screen that?
So Rick, it sounds like the top will be about 7 feet. It'll be peeking over a little bit, but again, the code specifically calls for 6 foot of screening.
Yeah, I understand that. Okay,
And because of the 30-foot setback, unless someone essentially got up to that fence and peered over the top, they're not going to see it.
correct. Thank you.
Unless your neighbor is over 6 feet tall. Anybody from the audience wish to comment? Coming up and introduce yourself.
I'm Kathy Ahern. I'm the abutting neighbor.
Gotcha.
Okay.
I actually can see his backyard from my patio and also from my kitchen, which has a sliding glass door and a bay window, and I can see out of the sliding glass door and one of the bay's windows to about half of his backyard.
Sure.
Plus that pine tree that you see in the corner of the deck, the branches have been removed up over my head. So even-
they would have to
Yes.
provide underneath it. Yep, sure. I couldn't tell from the image, but
No, of course you can. Plus it's a little
Right.
old.
so your feedback on this is?
I'm not against solar. I'm just against the fact that I'm afraid of the reflection into my house. And also it would ruin probably my favorite spot on the patio. I can't sit in the sunlight directly. So it would be one of my favorite spots. I would probably get the reflection.
So if there was, though, a 6-foot, let's say a stockade fence that blocked that reflection, would you be okay with that then?
If it would block all of the reflection, sure. I don't know if there's a guarantee of that or not.
Again, when we go, we can take a look at, correct me if I'm wrong, Don, that we could condition the special permit that, you know, it's installed in such a manner that and the fence are installed in such a manner as to block reflection from the adjacent house.
I mean, I think that is going to be somewhat subjective depending on where you're sitting, how high up you are. I would probably pick up, you know, right now the minimum height is 6 feet.
Mhm.
That's what the fence says. I mean, that's what the law says, about 6 feet. You know, wouldn't necessarily want for the town to get into a debate with somebody about, you know, whether and to what extent there's reflection. You'll hear people say that solar panels are designed not to reflect light. You know, I'm not sure you want to go down that path.
Okay.
Might be better to have somebody look and pick a height. So that way there we have a definitive, objective measure.
Well, to be honest with you, it'd be very hard because of the way the panels are pointing towards the customer's house, that there would be any reflection going that direction whatsoever.
Yeah, I don't, and this is what I was saying, Supervisor. I don't want to debate
Right,
whether
but
and to what extent there's reflection.
Can we have something in there that they shall take reasonable effort towards minimizing the impact? I get it. But my point is, I gotta believe it, put it this way, if Kevin walks back there on a sunny day and stands at her porch and is blinded, that doesn't sound to me like reasonable. I don't have a problem with some, you know, well, for lack of a better term, weasel words that, you know, the words, but I'd at least like to see that there is an effort to block any reflection going towards the neighbor.
Mm-hmm. Do you think maybe they should put together a plan for us to review before we approve it, and we can at least get some commitment?
The problem I see with that is, you know, now I guess I could go to my old career in imaging science and do the solar model tracing, and in other words, the plan's not going to really show it. I just look at it that if they go and put it in and it's glaring that something should be done, whether it's increase the fence height or reposition the thing, I just don't know that you can look at a plan and say, oh, this absolutely won't have any glare without solar modeling, you know. But again, in looking at it, it doesn't. Now, if I were to come straight, if you were standing to the eastern corner of your garage, and the fence didn't come that far south, you could probably see it. But if looking at where your patio is, if they do it correctly, you shouldn't see the reflection, which that says to me, again, based on what the developer has said, that there shouldn't be any reflection over there. I just think, like I said, if we add some language that says that, you know, reasonable efforts are made or something along those lines, that, you know, that the reflection isn't cast there, I would be comfortable with that.
I think my problem with reasonable is what's reasonable to one is not reasonable to another. So we've got to determine who the reasonable person is going to be.
In the sole opinion of the Director of Building and Fire Prevention.
Can I get clarification actually from the installer here? You said, if I'm not mistaken, a second ago, that the solar panel is proposed is angled towards the property owner's house.
That's correct.
The drawing that I have right now doesn't necessarily indicate that clearly. It looks like it's actually squared up on a straight east-west axis.
It really is, but the way it's positioned here, I'm gonna pull it up on my side here.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. Could you repeat that?
So I'm gonna pull it up on my side. Excuse me one second here. And because I was looking at something else in the meantime. All right, wrong pictures. Let's see here. There we go. All right. So yes, it is angled slightly, okay, but the direction of that is going to be pointing, it'll point more towards this front. There's just no way that it could possibly glare into her patio from the positioning that it's in. I've done a lot of ground mounts. I've probably done maybe 500 of them in my career. And they don't have a lot of glare because they have a tempered glass, and the way it's hued, it's very hard to get. I mean, there is a little bit, but very minimal. They wouldn't let us put them on houses if they were glaring back at aircraft and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
Do you have other comments?
As
Nope.
far as that,
No, I was asking the neighbor.
okay, sorry.
Anybody have questions for the neighbor?
How do
Okay, thank you.
Are you
Oh, go
for
ahead.
it? Are you against it? I mean, it's gonna be in your backyard, so.
It's not gonna be pretty and it's gonna be big. With the fence up, sure, it'll block some, but
Right.
I don't think that it'll block all of it. I'm about 5 feet off the ground, if you think about where my sliding glass door is. So looking out that or out my kitchen bay window, it would definitely be in view, even with the fence.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank
you.
you.
anybody else?
Mike Stafford, 32 Essex Drive. The gentleman just said he installed about 500 other ground mounted ones. Are any of them here local in Henrietta?
Not, most of them are more residential, rural areas, to be honest with you. I have done some in the suburbs, nothing in, let me think if I got anything in the Henrietta area. I work for a couple of different companies, so. Shoot. Nothing that stands out to me right at this moment that would fit this similar criteria. I mean, I have a lot of these sitting in people's backyards that face their houses, face the back of their homes, and they get no glare whatsoever because it's at 30 degrees. The glare is not going to be going towards the house. It goes up, if anything.
Gotcha.
So I don't think the glare should even be an issue here.
Right, so then it wouldn't be a burden to put a requirement that it's not reflecting significant glare at the neighbor's house or patio.
I don't see, I mean, I can't see how it would.
Okay, so my point is then it wouldn't create a burden for you for us to add that condition.
I mean, in my eyes, I can't see how it would happen. So physically, it couldn't happen.
Anybody online? Or anyone else in the audience? Any other comments, town board?
I mean, it's like, it's the same thing. I mean, a lot of people get glare off of people's windows
Sure.
and low E glass, things of that nature. I mean, I've been in the home improvement business my whole life, and windows, you'll get glare off of them, of course, because of the low E argon gas that they put in them, but this doesn't have any of that.
Sure. Okay, so I'm gonna put forth the proposal, and obviously if you're for it, great. If you're against it, but rather than do I know like sometimes the boards that someone will put forth a denial or approval. I'm gonna put forth an approval. If you're not for it, then just vote no. But I've been recording conditions as we've been talking. So I make a motion that we approve special use permit application number 2022-012, Third Rock Solar LLC, 362 Chelsea Meadow Drive to allow 3.94% lot coverage due to the proposed installation of a 672 square foot solar array, conditioned upon compliance with all applicable town code and installed in such a manner that it does not provide significant glare to the neighbor's house or patio in the sole determination of the Director of Building and Fire Prevention.
Second.
Any further comments? Does that cover all of the conditions we've spoken? Then hearing no further discussion, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Nay.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. So again, in the sole determination of the Director of Building and Fire Prevention, if he comes out there and it's determined that it's creating glare on the neighbors, you'll need to adjust that, whether that means rotating the panel slightly, providing some screening, something. And then, like I said, obviously the other, you'll need to be compliant with the code with regards to screening to the adjacent properties and to the right of way. Any,
What we could do is we could adjust that slightly a few degrees away from the neighbor's house, and we'd still be able to get about the same production out of it. It's very minimal.
okay, well, again, I'm going to leave that up to you as to how you want to address that. The key is
Okay.
don't create glare for the neighbor.
All right, sounds fair.
Okay,
Yes.
anything else? Then I guess I should have closed the public hearing for the special use permit, but we've already resolved. Thank you very much, and thank you for coming in and letting us know your concerns.
Thank you.
You.
Can I get my first resolution?
Not there. Supervisor Schultz and fellow board members, I make
Oh,
resolution.
I'm sorry. Could we get you to speak a little bit closer to the microphone?
Mike just moved away. Yeah,
Sorry, I'm trying to get, I'm not at it. I was still in the other thing.
we got to switch
I was trying to do with the,
PDFs.
I apologize, Becky. Let's see, here we go.
Can you hear her now?
Can you hear me now?
I can. Yes, thank you.
Supervisor Schultz, fellow board members, I have resolution number 9-157, 2022 to authorize bills payable for April 19th, 2022 through today, April 27th, 2022.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Superintendent and fellow board members, I have resolution number 9-158/2022. Whereas the Summit Federal Credit Union has donated $1,000 towards the July 15, 2022 and the August 5th, 2022 Summer Concert Series events. And whereas a check in the amount of $1,000 was received by the Recreation Director, therefore be it resolved that the Henrietta Town Board acknowledges this donation and thanks the Summit Federal Credit Union for their generosity.
Seconded.
Discussion? Again, thanks to the Summit for their donation. There's a lot of people who attend and enjoy the summer concert series. And this year we're going to be trying something new and also have a farmer's market at the concert series, assuming we can get some farmers to show up. So
Great idea.
should be interesting.
And if you don't go, go. It's a lot of fun. If it's a nice evening, you can sit out there with some of your friends and just have a really nice evening. I know I go with different friends to it. It's just really awesome. So.
Is there any discussion from the public? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor and fellow town board members, I have resolution number 9-159, 2022. Whereas Canandaigua National Bank and Trust has donated $500 to the Henrietta Public Library to be used for the acquisition of ebooks. And whereas a check in the amount of $500 was received by the library director, therefore be it resolved that the Henrietta Town Board acknowledges this donation and thanks Canandaigua National Bank and Trust for their generosity.
Second.
So again, thank you, Canandaigua, for your donation. Ebooks have become very popular, and the nice thing about them is they don't wear out. Although my son volunteers at the library and wraps the paperback and hard copy books to protect them, I don't think he'll be out of a job if we go all ebooks. Not that it's a job. It's a
I don't know that
volunteer.
we're going to be ready for all ebooks any day soon.
Yeah, I agree.
Many people like to hold books. I like to hold a book. I don't want to, I
Yep.
need it in my hand. It just makes it so much better.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor, fellow town board members, I have resolution 9-160, 2022. Whereas the Summit Federal Credit Union has donated $400 to the Henrietta Public Library to be put towards supplies for a special book release program for children. And whereas a check in the amount of $400 was received by the library director, therefore be it resolved that the Henrietta Town Board acknowledges this donation and thanks the Summit Federal Credit Union for their generosity.
Discussion?
Could I get a second on that?
Oh, yeah, second. Discussion?
Just thank you for donating. It's really, it's really nice to be able to have that to help with the children's programs.
We have some really fantastic youth and children's programming at our library and appreciate the community's support for that. I know that my own kids have really benefited a lot from the different programming that's there.
Any further comment? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Fellow board members, I have resolution 9-161, 2022. Whereas Daryl Deer Cubit has donated $30 to the Henrietta Public Library to be used for the acquisition of DVDs. And whereas a check in the amount of $30 was received by the library director. Therefore, be it resolved that the Henrietta Town Board acknowledges this donation and thanks Daryl Deer Cubit for their generosity.
Seconded.
So as we discussed at the workshop, there's a lot of people who still use DVDs, although it's probably fading out. So thank you for the donation.
Could be that at some point libraries will be able to go to some sort of a streaming service or something similar.
Well,
to
they do
ebooks.
have similar other
Films on demand kind of thing.
formats, yeah.
Mhm. But thank you, Daryl. I appreciate the donation.
At some point, the donations of DVDs will be to the town historian instead of the town library.
Very true.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz and fellow board members, I have resolution number 9-162, 2022. Whereas Edith A. Brown of Venice, Florida has donated $25 to the town historian for upkeep at the Tinker Cemetery on Castle Road. And whereas a check in the amount of $25 was received by the town historian. Therefore, be it resolved that the Henrietta Town Board acknowledges this donation and thanks Edith A. Brown for her generosity.
Second.
So again, as discussed at workshop, this donation arose out of our town historian helping Edith with some information, which our historian does for free. Mrs. Brown wanted to donate then the money to the town historian for upkeep of the cemetery to as sort of a thank you for the service she had provided. So Tina does a great job. Tina is our town historian, does a great job, and it's nice when residents recognize that. Any further comment?
I was a little confused about the Castle Road part.
So this isn't Tinker Cemetery is actually on Castle Road.
Oh, I missed the cemetery part. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a distance from the Tinker Homestead, but that's just where the original Tinker Cemetery was located.
Gotcha.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor and fellow board members, I have resolution number 9-163/2022 to declare intent to be lead agency for seeker review of the proposed plus or minus 200 unit multifamily senior living housing known as the Masonic Care community located at the northeast corner of Middle Road and Erie Station Road, and to allow for the height of the tallest building to exceed 35 feet.
Seconded.
Just a question on the phrasing there. So that we're going to be the seeker review, but we're not actually allowing at this point for the height of the tallest building to exceed 35 feet. This is not.
So this is just, we're taking the lead
review that.
action on those two.
On those
Yeah,
two
we're not approving
considerations.
anything. We're just declaring our intent to be lead agency 30 days from now.
And to consider the height of the tallest building. to
Yeah, it's
exceed-
going to be sometime after 30 days. We'll be in here for a special use permit.
Right.
And that's when we will consider the approval of the proposed unit as well as consider the special use permit for the height. I will note that one of the things, and I was already talking with our town attorney on how we would word this. Their taller buildings were going to be to the north, which is down the hill. And so, you know, one of the things we've talked about is I want to word it in such a way that there's, you know, my thought is we just put a maximum elevation on the top of a building. In addition to and so if we say, yes, the building could be a maximum, the tallest building could be a maximum, let's say they ask for 45 feet. We then pick how far down the hill we want it, add the 45 feet and say, no building can be higher than this top, because a lot of this has come out of the neighborhood meetings that they've had with the residents who live just to the south of this and are going to be overlooking this.
Yes.
And as they explained, they'll push the taller buildings towards the throughway, which means they won't be blocking those residents' view of the skyline. So
It'll be at a lower.
I want to record that somehow. And, you know, my thought, like I said, the easiest would be to set a maximum for the top height of the building, but. So anyway.
Okay.
But like I said, all this action is declaring our intent to be lead agency, saying that we're the ones who are going to do the seeker review
Yes.
of this project.
Yep. It was the second part.
No, understood.
And to allow, yeah.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, the way it's worded. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it should have been into, I guess probably would have been better to
And to consider.
consider. But anyway. Any other questions on that?
Mike Stafford, 32 Essex Drive. I got the assessment, the environmental assessment form today. I was just wondering if this board's going to require that, half of it's empty right now before it's, before you can review it. I was wondering if the residents are going to see a completed one.
So define half of it's empty.
Okay.
You're talking like part 1, part 2, part 3?
Hang on.
Because only to, Don, correct me if I'm wrong, for the start of the process, they only needed to complete part 1. And that part of this
That's right.
process is to complete the other sections.
When,
Right.
okay, well, it's spotty. Some sections are completed. I have a list of the sections that weren't completed, but
So to answer your question, yes, the EAF will need to be complete prior to our determination for under seeker regulations.
how far in advance? Because if you're going to approve it at the next meeting,
We're not going to approve it at the next meeting, Mike. We're calling it a intent to be lead agency, which is at least 30 days, which means we're at least 2 meetings away
okay,
at the earliest.
Okay.
And then basically from there, we hold the public hearing. There's nothing to say at the first public hearing that we're going to make a decision on that.
right. I just remember when you were working on the Riverton project, parcel A that came in, and there was a lot of parts in that review form that weren't complete.
And
you approved it anyways. So,
no, that's not true.
okay.
When it first
Okay, so
came
you
in
didn't
the
approve the
summer-
project, Steve. Okay, thanks. That we're set. Thank you.
Well, instead of you interrupting me, let me complete. When they first came in and it was incomplete, we sent them back to the drawing board and to go get additional information. And some sections, if you actually read the way you fill out the EAF, if the answer is a no, it's left blank. So
I do see that. I actually read these. I know some people, I actually look at these, as you know, I look at these often. And so let's look here. So they got, in part B, they got some filled out and some not, but there's a yes and no, it's a yes and no box. So you would figure if it was a no, they would check no or yes, if it was a yes. So, so in section B here, they have of section B, they have A filled out, B filled out, they have C empty, which is a yes or no question. D empty, which is a yes or no question. And then they fill in E, G, they skip off again, and H. So it's kind of spotty. That was my question. So yes, I do know that there's some sections, if you say no, you don't go to the next line. But when it's a yes or no, I would think you'd fill it in.
not always, believe it or not.
Okay, well,
But again, it will need to be reviewed and complete prior to the approval under the
Okay.
seeker regulation.
well, if you recall, I was here one day asking questions and you claimed that it didn't have to be filled in and so.
I don't recall,
Okay,
but
I
you
know.
know,
I just
whatever.
asked the question if it's going to be complete and the residents are going to be able to see it before you approve it.
They will.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor and fellow town board members, I have resolution number 9-164, 2022 to authorize the purchase of a used Skyjack scissor lift.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor, fellow town board members, I have Resolution 9-165, 2022, to authorize the purchase of a 2023 pickup truck for the Buildings and Grounds Maintenance Department from Capilino Chevrolet.
Second. Discussion? Unfortunately, the cost has gone up, which is why we have to approve this, even though we had previously approved it. But we actually have some in-house, and so should actually finally get this truck, which
Has been hard to come by.
it's been hard to come by. So
That was my
hopefully-
only question is are we actually going to be able to get it this time?
Yes, as my understanding is we will, that they have this for us and we will be getting it.
Okay.
That's still a pretty good price for that piece of machinery.
I will say, I'll believe it when I sign the,
Right,
sign the
right.
title. Any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Fellow board members, I have resolution 9-166, 2022 to declare item surplus materials from the highway department and consign to the Tatesworth Municipal Auction.
Seconded.
Any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz and fellow board members, I have resolution number 9-167, 2022, to declare an item surplus material from the Recreation Department.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor and fellow board members, I have resolution number 9-168/2022 to hire personnel and make the attached changes.
Seconded.
Any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor and fellow town board members, I have resolution number 9-169, 2022 to confirm requirement for real property tax law 487 pilot relative to Delaware River solar proposal at Pinnacle Road.
Second.
So this was added, originally, we were just going to send the letter from the town supervisor. It basically informs that there's the real property tax law section 478 has some oddities to it. The one that's always frustrated me, if you opt into that section, that basically says we'll allow these larger scale solar arrays, and we'll allow them to do it tax-free, but with a pilot, or not tax-free, they don't have to pay for the assessed value of the improvements from the solar arrays, but instead they do a pilot. The default position, if you then don't notify them that we're gonna have that pilot, is they get to do it without paying the taxes on the improvements or having to pay a pilot. Drives me crazy. So anyway, we received notification from Delaware River Solar that they're going to, that they're looking to do a project on Pinnacle Road. We had prepared the letter to send it back, and talking with town attorney, we felt it would be safer having that, because the statute doesn't say that it's required precisely, but does mention that you can do so by resolution. We just decided to, with some experience we've had with solar projects, we decided let's dot all the i's and cross all the t's. So we wanted you guys to essentially authorize me to sign it rather than me just sending the letter. Does that make sense?
So where, do we have any details on this solar project? Is this going to be coming before the town?
Yeah,
board
they
or
will
something?
need a special use permit, all that stuff. But like I said, the weird thing is they can send this letter of intent before we have any plans. And we now have to make the decision, are we or are we not going to do a pilot? So we're basically saying we are going to do a pilot. We're just notifying them that, yes, you will be required to enter a pilot.
Okay.
If approved, you will have to have a pilot in place. And that's what we've done with, I say all the others, there's only been one other, but
Right.
you know, we made it clear that we signed up for that exemption so that they, you know, what you find is most of them do not become financially viable if they have to pay full taxes
Right.
on the improvements because of the value of the solar panels. So we have, you know, established a pilot rate. It's fairly standard per megawatt. And that's what we've used in the past, and I expect we'll continue to use that going forward. You know, whether we'll start to adjust, I don't remember if there was a escalation. If there was an escalation, we'll probably take that into account. But you know, again, the details of the project, details of the pilot, that's all sometime in the future. The strange thing is if we don't tell them within 60 days that we're going to require a pilot, then we can't do a pilot in the future. I just don't understand that, but that's the way the law was written. So yeah, at some point, they will get us plans. They still need a special use permit. And then, like I said, as part of that, when we do our approval, we'll do like we did previously, that it's contingent upon the execution of a pilot. So.
Okay. It's just not a lot of information because we don't know how big, we don't know where or anything
Correct.
like that, but
Yeah, so we're not saying this is approved. We're just saying if
If.
you're going to get approved, we are going to require a pilot.
okay.
It's an oddity of the section 487.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of that either, because that was my first reaction too. I don't know anything about this, what, you know.
Right, right.
But as a town attorney explained it to me, that we just need to get them the letter that says, yes, if is approved, we are going to require a pilot.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
In fact, Don prepared the letter. I've got it written here. I'm actually going to sign it. We're going to get it out
See, it's
immediately.
dated tomorrow, so.
That's right. Okay, any questions?
Mike Stafford, 32 Essex. Is Delaware River Solar the same one that after they built the first project that they came back and wanted to chop down more trees? Is that
They
the Thank you. Just wanted to,
Yep.
I might not be here for the next meeting, so I just want to make sure
Yeah,
that they were the ones who were unhappy with their original plans, and then the board voted to let them chop down more trees.
so again, you say next meeting, the next meeting, they're not anywhere.
At that
close.
meeting, I should have said at
Yeah,
that.
they haven't applied.
Right.
They have not even put in an application for special use permit. So it's a ways away. I have
Okay.
no idea when it's coming, but
Okay, thanks, Steve.
yep.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Nope.
I'm sorry, I don't see.
Oh, that's the last one.
That
Never
was the
mind.
last one.
I'm sitting here, I'm at the end of the list, says Joe, then I realized that's the one we just did. That concludes our resolutions. Do we have any discussion items or comments from the public?
So I do have a question. I got a couple phone calls today that the town is going red tomorrow, so we'll be requiring face masks again.
That is correct. CDC actually put us in the red beginning of this week. But when we got the notification, it was late enough in the day that there was going to be no way to notify all the people in the recreation programs in time. So we delayed the start till Thursday. The DPW actually went into red today, but since the public doesn't attend we didn't think that was an issue because the public doesn't go to the DPW.
So we'll require face masks at the library and the recreation department starting tomorrow.
That is correct. And I will note that we've been in discussions with the group that does our website. We're going to have an icon added in the upper corner that shows the yellow, red, or green icon. And if you click on that, it'll take you to the page that details all the policies. It's going to be a little bit before that's in place. In the meantime, we're going to update the /COVID page to have that information. But that's in the works. So I will try to later today at least get the condition red policy up there so people can view it. Any other questions on that? Do we have any committee or miscellaneous reports?
I do. I've got we'll talk about Parks and Recreation Board first.
Actually, before you go into that, I have to be excused for a moment, but you can continue with the report and I'll be back. Thank you.
Okay, first of all, Educators Grove Committee is going to be hosting a design meeting on Friday, June 10th to help develop a master plan for the Educators Grove. It's going to go into Hoskins Park. The Recreation Center, the town DPW has installed the carpet and completed other finishing touches. Families are already enjoying the space. Rec Center hosted the state gymnastics meet on April 9th and 10th. 10 gymnasts qualified for the regional meet in Providence, Rhode Island next month. There are a lot of upcoming events going on at the Rec Center. Lisa, are you all over the Grandma, Mommy, and Me Princess Party?
I will be there on Saturday.
Excellent. That's on Saturday, April 30th. Sheer Madness will be there to do princess hair. And Snow White and Elsa will be making guest appearances.
I'll make sure I take pictures.
Also on Saturday is the Clean Sweep from 8:30 to noon. Work is going to be done at Tinker Park, the Senior Center, at the Rec Center, and possibly Lookup Park. The Rec Center is hosting a Red Cross blood drive on Saturday, May 7th from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Plans are set for the Memorial Day Parade on May 22nd. The Kicking Hunger 5K is going to be Saturday, June 4th, starting at 8 a.m. And the Summer Concert Series kicks off on Friday evenings on July 15th.
Very good. Sounds good. So the only thing I have from the library is that Thursday, Friday, and Saturday is the used book sale at the library. So check the website for the hours.
I have no committee reports.
Rick?
No, I don't have a committee report. I couldn't attend because of my quarantine.
Did someone report on the school budget?
No.
Lisa and I attended the school budget.
I've got some of the information I had talked with
That might be best. I don't
Andy
have it in
Whitmore
front of me.
today, right? So I hadn't gotten out of here in time to get to that meeting.
Mhm.
But I followed up with Andy Whitmore from the school district. Couple notes, currently the maximum tax rate, they project the maximum tax rate increase is 1.98%. However, that was assuming a growth in the tax rolls similar to last year. With the town doing the reassessment of commercial properties, updating land values, and with the skyrocketing residential properties, I suspect it's more likely that the tax rate will actually go down because the values is likely to go up significantly. But we'll know that when we have the roll. The one thing I was reading in a couple things in terms of they've been supplementing with the some of the COVID relief funding. And I was a little concerned about that because some of the items sounded like they were continual, ongoing expenses. Andy did say that only the one portion, the hourly rate increases are permanent. The other positions may or may not, depending on assessment need in the future cycle. So in other words, some of the stuff, some of the additional positions some of the additional programs are the needs because of the remote learning, because of the additional stress that has been on students. So going forward, that may go away, but he also stressed that the funding that they've applied this year is actually only 1/3 of the total stimulus funding. And so there will be additional portions in future years, so they'll be able to phase that, you know, even if there's some additional stuff. Obviously, eventually that some of those permanent increases will need to go back through non-one-time funding. He did mention that some of the stimulus rules, they couldn't just use it for one-time expenditures. It had to be spent on learning recovery and SEL needs and stuff like that. So, but he said the good news is even though they're using it for that, it means then they don't have to pull from the reserves. So it will allow the reserves to grow back some. So again, from a long-term, he basically thinks that they should be set for at least 4 years, maybe more, based off of that. So that was good to hear. I noted that there were no other increases in there for the artificial turf and connector road. He said that was fully funded from capital reserves and existing capital funds, so there was no tax impact. The increase in the non-instructional wages was largely due to raise the minimum hourly wage to meet the $15 minimum hourly wage. Kind of a little bit ahead of it, they had to increase some of the stuff at that or higher because of competition. We've seen the same thing in the town. If you're offering less than $15, you're not going to get anybody to apply. What else did I have? I already mentioned the rate.
The propositions that are going to be on the,
That I don't know. I was only looking at the budget
at the
stuff.
budget.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've got the propositions.
Yeah.
Authorization of the expenditure budget for $151,625,968. The second budget proposition is approval to expend $2.5 million for the replacement of buses. And then the third is an establishment of the 2022 capital reserve.
Did any of those have a tax impact or no? And if so, did it have on there what they
The
were?
capital reserve, no. He said the replacement of the buses is a reimbursement. So, yeah, I mean, I know one of the things that they had said is one of the biggest increases is due to employee benefits,
Right,
health insurance. And then the other thing they said is they've taken bus drivers up $2 an hour just because they can't get bus drivers. That
right.
they've got office workers, mechanics trying to drive buses, and they have had to call parents and say, we can't pick up your child because we don't have any bus drivers, which is really a shame.
I think we may see an increase at some point too in some of the aides and paraprofessionals and that type as well, because they have been having difficulty retaining.
Right. The other thing I will note is that like us, they budget sales tax revenues conservatively. As you guys are aware, the sales tax this past year came in way above expected. And in talking with the county, they are on track to actually exceed that, even after they do the gas tax holiday that they're talking about. Even with that lost revenue, they expect sales tax revenues to exceed the previous year. So the school district does get a portion of their revenues from sales tax. So that may come in additional, but they do what we do is they budget conservatively, and then the extra gets put into, goes into the fund balance, and they apply that to reduce the next year's tax burden. So as you know, that's the way I prefer to do it, because it gives us a 1-year lead to be able to deal with that. Whereas some of the other towns in the county, they try to hit what the taxes are going to be. And then like in 2020, when the sales tax revenues came in low, they couldn't make their budget. They essentially ran out of funding. So I prefer this way. I'm glad they do it too, because like I said, it essentially gives you a year to respond if you've had a down year. So anyway,
They did say we're currently the lowest tax rate in the county. They emphasized currently because not all the budgets are in.
yeah, right. And again, with our growth, we will probably stay there. We'll stay.
One of the things I found really interesting that I didn't know is that there's less than 100 children from the Brighton area that attend our schools. I mean, I know we have 3 towns that are all at Rush Henrietta, but I always thought there was a little bit more from the West Brighton that were here. And there isn't, they said there's less than 100 students. So I thought that was interesting.
A lot of West Brighton, there's not a ton of family homes in that
So you said it's
section.
mostly commercial.
Yeah. Or there's a number of apartments that cater to like college students. The other thing that was interesting, I think it was something like there's 17 households in Henrietta that are in that aren't in the Rush Henrietta Central School District.
They're in Henrietta Falls.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, when they come up, people are really excited.
There was an interesting one that had been carved out of the Pittsford School District. It was one house, and they had been carved out of the Pittsford School District. So they had requested to be placed back into the Pittsford School District because all of the other homes on their street were Pittsford.
There are some strange.
Very strange.
Yes,
ways of-
arrangements, yeah.
So for instance, I forgot which town it was, whether it was Brighton or. No, I think it's Wheatland. That there's a portion of Wheatland that is in the Brighton School District, even though the 2 towns aren't adjacent. I don't know. It was weird.
That is interesting.
It's at some point, they need to fix
Yeah,
I do think they need to
there's a
fix
lot
the
of
district
confusion.
boundaries.
Yes.
Any other committee or miscellaneous reports? Anything other business? Hearing none, can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I will second. Hearing no